Dobrý deň, vážení dámy a vážení páni. Ja som veľmi rada, že sme sa tu teda dnes stretli. Viete, že priemyselný inovačný kláster spolu s MIRI, ktorý etabloval Gaia-X Slovákia, teda už má pár rokov. A dneska som veľmi rada, že tu môžem privítať hlavných predstaviteľov Gaia-X AI SBL, ktorí za chvíľu budú vystupovať. Ale na začiatku máme nejakých veľmi zaujímavých slovenských keynote speakerov, takže nebudem zdržovať. Organizačné pokyny. Jednotka, prosím vás, je slovenčina, hej, keď potrebujete preklad, a dvojka je angličtina, kanál. No. Tak ďakujem krásne a teraz by som bola veľmi rada, ak môžem privítať pána Ivana Štefanca, aby nám otvoril a privítal nás na dnešnom evente. Ďakujem.
Ďakujem pekne, príjemný dobrý deň, milí priatelia, vážený pán štátny tajomník, vážení hostia. Som rád, že ste prijali toto naše pozvanie, kde môžeme hovoriť o dôležitej téme, o dátovej ekonomike, o aktivitách, ktoré boli rozbehnuté v celej únii a najmä na Slovensku. Dnes všetci vieme, že žijeme v dobe veľkých zmien, žijeme v dobe digitálnej revolúcie, ktorá nás tvaruje, ale ktorú pre všetkým my tvarujeme. V Európskom parlamente sa venujeme predovšetkým 3 témam pre pomoc zvládnutia digitálnej transformácie. Pre všetkým je to prvá téma, to je legislatíva, ktorá naozaj nás všetkých ovplyvňuje. Európsky parlament bol prvý, ktorý sa začal venovať digitálnej legislatíve a pripravili sme a schválili akt o digitálnych službách, akt o digitálnych trhoch, akt o umelej inteligencii, nedávno samozrejme Data Act. A to sú základné stavebné piliere budovania spoločného digitálneho trhu, ale aj digitálnej suverenity v rámci Európskej únie, čo je aj jedna z tém, ktorej je aj súčasťou aktivita Gaia-X. Tou druhou témou, ktorej sa venujeme, sú zručnosti. Digitálne zručnosti, tie sú kľúčové pre zvládnutie digitálnej transformácie. A do tretice, to, čo je kľúčové pre digitálnu transformáciu, to sú dáta. A o tom hlavne budeme dnes hovoriť, o dátovej ekonomike, o tom, ako môžeme pomôcť zvládnuť digitálnu transformáciu cez veľké dáta, cez ich zdieľanie. A som veľmi rád a som vďačný aj aktivitám na Slovensku a Gaia-X Hub Slovakia, ktorá je veľmi, veľmi aktívna, pre všetkým Martinka Maláková, ktorá naozaj urobila veľký kus práce, tiež je spoluiniciatorkou tohto podujatia, takže veľká vďaka za túto aktivitu. Myslím si, že je dôležité si povedať, že vlastne cieľom tejto aktivity je naozaj posunúť digitálnu transformáciu, pomôcť jednak priemyslu, pomôcť zvládnuť digitálnu transformáciu aj v rámci spoločnosti, ale vytvoriť napríklad priestore pre využitie umelej inteligencie. To je to, čo nás dnes veľmi formuje a to, čo nás bude formovať aj do budúcna. Bez využitia dát, bez zdieľania dát to naozaj do budúcna nepôjde. A myslím si, že je skvelé, že sme sa tu dnes stretli, že môžeme hovoriť o tom, aké sú výhody, ale aj aké sú úskalia tohto projektu a vôbec zdieľania dát ako takých. O Gaia-X hovorila už v roku 2019 prezidentka Európskej komisie pani Ursula von der Leyen práve v správe o stave Európskej únii a je dobré, že spomenula práve tento projekt, že dala tomu veľký význam, odtedy takisto uplynul čas, urobili sa nejaké milníky, o ktorých budeme dnes hovoriť a takisto budeme hovoriť najmä o tom, čo nás čaká do budúcna. Mimochodom práve na budúci týždeň bude pani von der Leyen v Europarlamente hovoriť svoju ďalšiu a už poslednú správu v tomto volebnom období o stave únie a verím, že práve bude hovoriť aj o digitálnej transformácii ako o kľúčovej zmene dneška. Budeme hovoriť aj o tom, teda čo nás čaká. Z môjho pohľadu verím, že sa dotkneme aj 3 hlavných víziev, ktoré sú aktuálne a to sú v prvom rade, ako bude fungovať celý tento projekt, aká bude spolupráca v ňom. Po druhé takisto, ako tieto dáta môžu pomôcť inovatívnej ekonomike a vôbec novým inováciám, hlavne v digitálnej oblasti. A do tretice, čo je moja takisto dôležitá téma, a to sú malí podnikatelia. Je dôležité, aby tento projekt nebol len spoluprácou kľúčových hráčov, spoluprácou tých, ktorí tvoria digitálnu ekonomiku, veľkých firiem a samozrejme inštitúcií verejného sektoru, ale aby vytvoril priestor najmä pre nové inovácie a pre prístup k dátam malých firiem, ktoré sú kľúčové pre rozvoj celej spoločnosti. Takže teším sa na dnešné stretnutie. Ďakujem za slovo a pekný a užitočný deň všetkým. Ďakujem.
Ďakujem krásne, ďakujem, príhovor bol veľmi úžasný ako vždy. Ďalej by som veľmi rada poprosila pána štátneho tajomníka, pána Petra Šveca, aby nás tiež uviedol, čo robí Ministerstvo hospodárstva a ako spolupracuje s Gaia-X a Slovakia a s Gaia-X. Ďakujem.
Príjemný dobrý deň, dámy a páni, excelencie, vážený pán poslanec Európskeho parlamentu, vážený pán Francesco Bonfiglio, CEO Gaia-X. Vítajte všetci. Som rád, že sa schádzame ku takejto kľúčovej, dôležitej téme aj pre slovenskú ekonomiku. A ja hneď na úvod chcem povedať, že my nie sme ako Slovensko hviezdou v digitalizácii. To všetci vieme. Máme veľký dlh práve v tom, ako nastúpiť na ten správny vlak v oblasti digitalizácie. A vláda, ktorá je dnes pri moci, je úradníckou vládou. Ale zároveň je vládou, ktorá rozumie potrebe digitalizácie a aj v mene môjho ministra hospodárstva, pána Douhuna, ktorý tu dnes nemohol byť medzi nami, chcem vyzdvihnúť iniciatívu Gaia-X na európskej úrovni a náš záujem zapojiť sa do tejto iniciatívy a byť aktívnym hráčom. Preto som aj ja dnes tu, preto je pani Martinka Malaková, ktorej chcem poďakovať za organizáciu tohto podujatia, niekoľko mesiacov mojou poradkyňou práve pre túto tému, alebo poradkyňou ministerstva hospodárstva práve pre túto tému, lebo máme záujem tento nástroj výrazne alebo významne posunúť dopredu. My nevieme, čo bude po 30. septembri, ale ja to hovorím na úrade veľmi otvorene, že mňa voľby nezaujímajú, lebo inštitúcie by mali fungovať, alebo v slušných spoločnostiach, v dobrých, prosperujúcich spoločnostiach inštitúcie fungujú naprieč voľbám, naprieč politickým zmenám. A samozrejme, ten politický leadership je veľmi dôležitý a je dôležité ísť voliť a správne sa rozhodnúť 30. septembra a voliť politických reprezentantov, ktorí chcú túto krajinu posunúť ku modernejšej krajine, ale inštitúcie by mali fungovať bez ohľadu na to, či voľby sú v predčasnom termíne alebo sú v riadnom termíne. Ja som sa v marci tohto roku zúčastnil na konferencii prvýkrát Gaia-X vo Viedni s názvom Market X. Bol to môj taký prvý dotyk s touto témou. Ja som taký klasický užívateľ digitalizácie, nie som expert v tejto oblasti, ale tam som si uvedomil a pamätám si na taký hlavný slogán alebo taký hlavný message tej konferencie, ktorý znel, že svet prechádza od tovarovej ekonomiky alebo takej tej materiálno-tovarovej ekonomiky ku digitálnej alebo digitálne podporovanej alebo riadenej ekonomike alebo hospodárstvu. A to je niečo, čo mi tak svietilo počas tej konferencie a dodnes to mám ako niečo, čo je kľúčové a na čo by sme sa mali zamerať aj my na ministerstve hospodárstva. Aj naše hospodárstvo, tak ako aj inde v Európskej únii a vo vyspelom svete, prechádzame mnohými krízami, a teda Európa je tým dotknutá najviac, ale zároveň, a to je aj príležitosť týchto kríz, aby sme akcelerovali tranzíciu, tú tzv. Twin tranzíciu, teda v oblasti digitalizácie a prechodu na zelenú ekonomiku a hľadali všetky možnosti, ako zvýšiť konkurencieschopnosť našej ekonomiky. A teda aj za pomoci dát, alebo aby dáta boli tým správnym nástrojom pre akceleráciu a zvýšenie našej konkurencieschopnosti. Slovensko je, ako vieme, priemyselná krajina. Priemysel tvorí kľúčovú zložku hrubého domáceho produktu. V tom je automobilový priemysel ako ten najsilnejší, bez akýchkoľvek pochyb. Skoro 50% nášho exportu tvorí práve automobilový priemysel. A na celkovom hrubom domácom produkte sa autopriemysel podieľa zhruba 12%, niečo vyše 12%. Sme teda naviazaní na celoeurópsky výrobný reťazec, preto je pre nás dôležité, aby sme európske a globálne trendy vedeli veľmi úspešne a efektívne aplikovať a byť ich súčasťou a vytvárať pre firmy, ktoré u nás pôsobia, to správne zázemie v oblasti digitalizácie. Na ministerstve hospodárstva máme ambíciu a nechceme sa len prizerať a byť len prijímateľom tých všetkých zmien okolo nás. Chceme sa na nich aktívne podieľať a byť spoľahlivým partnerom pre naše podniky a iné organizácie v dobe digitálnej transformácie hospodárstva. Preto ministerstvo hospodárstva má, respektíve pripravuje viacero nástrojov na podporu zavádzania digitalizácie a digitálnej transformácie a dátového hospodárstva do slovenských podnikov, najmä malých a stredných podnikov. Ide napríklad o otvorenú výzvu na digitálne vouchere, ktorá už dnes je aktuálna a ktorú je možné využiť alebo sa o ňu uchádzať, alebo o zdroje tejto výzvy sa uchádzať, kde je možné využiť, alebo je možné ju využiť, tie zdroje využiť na vypracovanie návrhov individualizovaných riešení pre podniky v konkrétnych oblastiach. Napríklad pri automatizácii, optimalizovaní interných procesov, digitalizácii priemyslu, výroby či financie, ale aj pri zabezpečení kybernetickej bezpečnosti či využívaní umelej inteligencie. Ako všetci vieme, umelá inteligencia bez dát nám neprinesie veľký užitok. Tá výzva, jej celková alokácia, asi to vy, ktorí sledujete túto tému, tak viete, bolo to publikované, ale ja to zopakujem, celková alokácia je 12 miliónov eur. Zároveň pripravujeme výskumnú alebo výzvu v oblasti výskumu digitalizácie ekonomiky zameranú na podporu vývoja inovatívnych riešení prostredníctvom digitalizácie procesov a ich pilotného testovania a nasadzovania v reálnom prostredí. A na tento účel máme pripravenú alokáciu 40 miliónov eur. Je to výzva, ktorú pripravujeme na ministerstve hospodárstva a budeme ju aj my administrovať. Tá predošla, keď som hovoril o tých digitálnych voucheroch, tá je realizovaná cez Slovenskú inovačnú a energetickú agentúru. Dá sa to ľahko nájsť, vy, ktorí máte záujem o tú výzvu, tak vlastne všetky tie detaily nájdete. Aktívne pracujeme aj na splnení cieľov v digitálnej dekáde, kde jeden zo 4 pilierov je práve podnikateľský sektor a jeho digitálna transformácia. Preto som veľmi rád, že zástupcovia Gaia-X prišli na Slovensko a tým ukázali, že Slovensko má potenciál, odbornosť a aj dáta a tým potvrdili úspešné rozvíjanie našej spolupráce. Slovensko a táto vláda má chuť participovať na vytváraní a implementovaní a hľadaní nových možností medzinárodnej spolupráce na báze Gaia-X rámca, čo v praxi znamená vytváranie data space dátových priestorov. Slovensko plne podporuje iniciatívu Európskej únie, aby sa bezpečné zdieľanie dát, a to chcem zdôrazniť, bezpečné zdieľanie dát, na základe federatívnych princípov stalo katalizátorom našej európskej a teda aj slovenskej konkurencieschopnosti. Preto my ako Ministerstvo hospodárstva Slovenskej republiky aktívnejšie podporíme Gaia-X iniciatívu, ktorá bola na Slovensku etablovaná cez Ministerstvo investícií, regionálneho rozvoja a informatizácie Slovenskej republiky. Vidím tu aj kolegu z Míry, takže vítam vás a tým zdôrazňujem, že táto téma je vlastne kľúčová pre tento rezort a my to výrazne podporujeme. Tým, že navrhneme vytvoriť medzirezortnú pracovnú skupinu s názvom Slovakia-X, ktorá bude zdieľať dobré príklady zo zahraničia a z našich jednotlivých sektorov a rezortov, ako je hospodárstvo, energetika, inovácie v našom prípade, ale aj poľnohospodárstvo, výskum, vývoj a mnoho ďalších oblastí. Digitalizáciu vnímam ako prierezovú, ako systémový nástroj, ktorý môže výrazne posunúť konkurencieschopnosť Slovenska a je na nás, je na jednotlivých hráčoch v ekonomike, akým spôsobom sa toho ujmú. Ale je na vláde a na vládnej administratíve, aké podmienky pre tieto možnosti vytvorí. A v tomto smere beriem ako zástupca vlády na tomto podujatí aj zodpovednosť a chcem sa vrátiť k tomu, čo som hovoril na úvod. Vláda Ľudovita Odora a Ministerstvo hospodárstva pod vedením Petra Douhuna túto tému vníma ako veľmi dôležitú a budeme sa snažiť aj v tom krátkom čase, ktorý nám zostáva, čo najviac prispieť k tomu, aby to nebolo len o debatovaní, ale o naozaj aplikácii týchto nástrojov. Ďakujem vám pekne za pozornosť a želám úspešný priebeh dňa a verím, že odídete iní, ako ste prišli a že to, čo tu budete počuť, vás obohatí a posunie nás to dopredu. Ďakujem pekne.
Ďakujem, pán štátny tajomník, za veľmi pekný priehovor a za skvelú novinku, pretože keď v automobilovom priemysle máme Catenu X, v Nemecku máme Manufacturing X, tak som hrdá, že na Slovensku teda sme ohlásili, že budeme mať Slovakia X. Ďakujem krásne. A už sme sa bavili o digitálnych zručnostiach a výskume a vývoji, tak ďalším vlastne rečníkom dovolte mi privítať pána Roberta Ševčíka z Ministerstva školstva.
Ďakujem veľmi pekne. Ja som si pripravil prezentáciu v angličtine, ale dovolím si na začiatok pár slov, pár vied po slovensky, keďže je tá možnosť. V prvom rade ďakujem teda, že môžem byť tu, že Ministerstvo školstva dostalo príležitosť vystúpiť na takomto evente pred takými dôležitými hostiami, ako sú to páni, ktorí sa už boli spomínaní, aby som na nikoho nezabudol, radšej nebudem menovať. A chcem sa teda poďakovať pani Malákovej za organizáciu, za túto možnosť, že tu môžeme byť, a teda dôkazom toho, že aj Ministerstvo školstva dáva dôležitosť data sharingu a týmto iniciatívam je aj teda, že Ministerstvo školstva dalo záštitu tomuto podujatiu. So now let's switch to English and start the presentation. Okay, dear guests, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to present you the issue of data sharing and initiatives to promote sharing. Okay. At the beginning, short information about where we are and where we are going. The volume of data produced in the world is growing rapidly. From 33 zettabytes in 2018 to an expected 175 zettabytes in 2025. We need to integrate useful or intelligent data into everything we do. According to this prediction, in 2025, there will be 80% of data stored and proceed via edge computing and intelligent objects like automobiles, home appliances, and devices near the consumer, and only 20% of the production and processing of data will be done in data centers and centralized systems. Slovakia should reflect these predictions and understand the value of data sharing, because in the next years, the key role in the world of data will play the process which have a common requirement. They need instruments of data sharing. So, where we are in Slovakia? No. Oh, okay. I probably switch one slide. Sorry. So we are in Slovakia. As in most countries, the volumes of produced data are increasing, and in order to help our society via data, we must know how to professionally process, manage, and make this data available for both the public and private sectors. We have not achieved this situation in Slovakia yet, and data sharing takes place mainly locally in the sector. Professional solutions required for data integration into the society are not and will not always be simple, because in addition to the mentioned processes and instruments, we need a learning society and competitiveness in data sharing. For such development, we need know-how and finances. Therefore, it is necessary to be involved in relevant European and international programs and projects. And which one are they? The Horizon Europe and the Digital Europe program. Both programs allow to implement projects with focus to the implementation of data infrastructure, common data spaces, and federated sharing of these spaces based, for example, on Gaia-X know-how and the Gaia-X methodological framework. I must also mention EOSC initiative, in which we are an active member, and we consider EOSC as a highly important project for access to European database services. It is necessary to engage in EIT framework and realize your startup and innovations together with the data sharing solutions. EIT make this possible. And of course, EDIC. EDIC consortia represent a new opportunity for both the public and the private sector to implement international projects in those areas in which countries are lagging behind. We should gradually join other EDIC consortia with the help of relevant entities from the private sector. In Slovakia, we are implementing the digital transformation strategy until 2030 and the related action plan for the years 2023 to 2026. During the years 2023 to 2026, the transformation will be focused mainly on the digitalization of SMEs, the digitalization of healthcare, the development of artificial intelligence, and digital literacy. During this period, it will be important for the Ministry of Education, together with all ministries and key data producers from the private sector, to jointly recognize the current state of data and research data production in Slovakia and to propose solutions for the integration of intelligent data with the aim of helping to improve every area of our lives. In this way, we will be ready to participate in the solution of the digital transformation of Slovakia for the years 2027 to 2030, and we will be able to base this transformation on the power of value of the data. So, what are our tasks for the development of our society using data? Okay, so we need projects, we need cloud storage, data spaces, federated data sharing, legislation and standardization, professional support, and of course, education. Thank you for your attention.
Ďakujem krásne, pán Šučík, za veľmi príjemný a výborný príhovor. A teraz by som teda dala už slovo predstaviteľom Gaia-X, pánovi generálnemu riaditeľovi Francescovi Bonfigliovi. Francesco.
Is this mine? Okay. So a warm welcome to everybody also from my side, the distinguished panelists and guests, and everybody. Thank you for hosting me. Thank you, Martina, for organizing this first roadshow, HAPS roadshow here in Bratislava. I just want to tell you that this is the first time we do this. And yesterday we were in Ljubljana, and today we are here in Bratislava. And this is the beginning of something we want to start actually from the next year as a real roadshow, like a rock band touring around Europe and standing in front of the people in every possible country. So we have representatives from the institutions, the distinguished member of the European Parliament, the Secretary of State, and many personalities. But the purpose of today is really to be open to anyone and any question. So really what we wanted to do was to have the chance to come. And like I said, we want to go as possible around Europe and speak to the people and ask people to ask questions to us. Because unfortunately, me and my friends here, Roland and Pierre, we spend all the time on this initiative. You can imagine it's quite intensive. And sometimes we believe people, the hubs, but also the non-members deserve to be told what we are doing and also to have the chance to ask questions. So there is no stupid question. The only stupid question is the one you're not going to want, you don't want to ask. Please be open. Now, what I want to do is hopefully spend no more than 15, 20 minutes, hope no more than that, talking about the future of European digital ecosystem. But that's a big word. And actually what you have heard this morning from my valued predecessors on this stage were words about how the real world of economy is changing. So let's start from the beginning. Is data economy real? Is that something that Really, all of you believe is a real tangible thing or not? Let's be honest. Some people still don't believe data economy is a real thing, or still distinguish between real economy and data economy. And many people believe data economy is the economy inducted by the information technology sector. I have bad news. If I can flip slides, yeah. Well, this is, some of you may have seen it, it's becoming quite famous. It's a graph developed definitely not by IT people, not by digital people. This is the Standard & Poor Index. So it's the most known financial index in the world. Everybody know S&P 500. So these 500 titles listed represent the real economy for many people, for many economists, for many brokers, for many investors. Look at what happened in 40 years. 40 years ago, the economy was largely, so above 90%, constituted by titles of enterprises developing tangible goods, products, or services, tangible. Now, 90% of the economy is made by intangible. 90% of the real economy is made by intangible. What is intangible? It's a new type of business related to information. What is information? It's a new type of value that is produced through data. What is data? This is what data economy is. Data economy, we were like, I was making the joke, frogs boiling in the water. We didn't see this, but this happened. Now our economy is really data economy, most of it, which means our occupation, our schooling, our employment, our health, everything will have to be related to a fact. The future is going to be related to data. Another thing that is happening is about digital sovereignty. Just 3 years ago when I joined Gaia-X, most of the people were relating to digital sovereignty as a political, as a call for political action, let me say. It was a clear mandate. Also when Gaia-X was started, remember it was 2019, so it was the Trump administration in the United States. So Germany and France in particular were very active trying to show a clear action against a potentially strong populist and sovereign American administration. At that time, it was very clear. So the reaction from President Macron and Chancellor Merkel and the ministries, Bruno Le Maire and Peter Altmaier, was very clear. We want to build a European response to the cloud, to the non-European cloud monopolism. The translation into action was not that clear. So that was still very much a political action, but it was not still, there was not yet a clear definition of what should have been done. So many people said, okay, Europe is going to build a new cloud infrastructure. We are going to build the European AWS, and all sorts of interpretations. But digital sovereignty started to be a theme in the strategic agenda of every political government. The business didn't really care. So if I spoke to a CEO at that time about digital sovereignty, the answer was, we don't really care. Our customers, they don't really care whether we're using Amazon, Google, Microsoft, or a European cloud service provider. Nowadays, and this is IDC, or you can see it from Gartner or Forrester, which are not definitely European analysts, this is what they say. 80%, so the majority of the CEOs, believe digital sovereignty is a priority for their strategic industrial agenda, and they see it as a real business opportunity in the market, which means producing products which are driven by data which you are sovereign of, and using technology you are sovereign, which means you are in control of, will produce better products, better results, better services, better competitivity in the long run. So they understand this is a necessary move. So put it together. The real economy is becoming data economy. And sovereignty is a necessary tool. It's like, okay, I want to invest in automotive, but I'm dependent from energy, totally dependent from China. It will never fly. So when the first industrial revolution started with carbon and the second with the internet, everybody knew that all the necessary resources were available to everybody. Can we really do a fourth industrial revolution being totally slave of a handful of raw material provider, and the raw material is the technology platforms? We can't. And it's not a fight against America, don't get me wrong. It's a matter of fact, it's a dependence of the new age of the industry, of dependence of the new type of economy. So what is that economy? That economy is real, is the result of a shift from a product or service-centric to a data-centric value chain in any sector. This is a simple definition I used to report, and I think it's easy to remember. Also, who is impacted? Everybody's impacted. There is no single sector that will not change due to the data transformation, to the data-centric transformation. And the value chain digitalization is achieved through the creation of common data spaces. So you may have heard about data spaces, Gaia-X supporting data spaces, the digital decade, the digital European program. So all these initiatives talk about data spaces. What are data spaces? See data spaces as a digitalization of a value chain. You know what a value chain is? And the data space is simply a place where all the participants in a value chain decide to share data one another, because in this way they gain reciprocal benefit and advantage, but they need to do it in a safe and trusted environment. Otherwise, this would have happened in the past. It never happened, not because we didn't have the technology to exchange the data, not at all. We didn't have the technology to trust the people we were exchanging the data and to trust the technology platforms where we were putting our data. That's what we're trying to solve. So what is the problem? The real numbers are these. These are predictions for 2025, which is just around the corner. The European value of data platforms will reach 8 to 10% of the GDP. Europe market share nowadays of that, of the total, let me say, market of data platforms is below 4%. 74% is in the United States, 21% is in Asia. But the fact is that 8 to 10% of the GDP is a tangible value. But that's the tip of the iceberg, because this is just the inducted, it's the revenues from the IT or digital sector. If you think about that every product, every service will be impacted by data, you understand that the price to market and therefore the revenues and the margins will be indirectly driven by those data platforms, which means economists, not me, say that the global value of economy will be related directly or indirectly to data for not less than 50, some say 70%, which is huge. So we are totally dependent on this. Also, the services we have in the public and the private sector depend largely on these data platforms. But we're not using our data. Our data still, most of them, untapped, unutilized, and disjoint. We are not sharing data one another because we're scared about doing that, or because we don't know what to do it. And in the doubt, we keep them under the drawing, in the drawing. We don't use them. So it's like having money, you don't put it in the bank, like my grandmother used to say, because she didn't trust the bank, so she put the money under the bed. Yeah, you can save it, but it will lose value. So, last but not least, there is no political sovereignty without digital sovereignty. And these are words of Minister Le Maire during the opening of the French presidency of the European Council last year. So that's a clear message. You cannot be in control of society, education, economy, whatever, without being in control of the technologies that are ruling, as a matter of fact, those sectors. So what do we need? We need to create federated ecosystem, because our economy in Europe is fragmented through many small, medium businesses. We have a handful of large companies, not just in Slovakia, even in Germany, there's a few large companies. Every country in Europe is characterized by largely 80%, 85%, even more, small, medium business. There's no way that small, medium business can survive in the new era unless we create mechanisms for federation. See federation as a kind of cooperative model, economically speaking. It's a very old model. We need to get together if we want to survive, if we want to compete. Second, If we really need to create new products, new services, new value through data, well, we need common data spaces. So we need to start collecting this data. We need to start using it. Last but not least, to build these common data spaces, federate together to become stronger and build new data economy, we need trusted platforms to do it. This is the preamble from where Gaia-X was started. Totally in line with European strategy, totally in line with the problem, but there was no solution. So we said, all right, let's try to identify what is really the problem and what can we do to solve it. So go back to the roots. So if what I say is really true, somebody told me I'm a good salesman, but I'm not trying to sell you anything. But if you really trust what I'm saying, look at what happens. To build a common data space, what is the magic sauce? Well, you have different players. Typically, producer, partners, competitors, provider, A, B, C. Some are, let me say, in the safe zone because you already work with them. Some are outside of your relationship, so they are potentially competitors you don't want to deal with. Well, if you want to digitalize your value chain, you have to get together. How do you get together? Well, first there is a business problem. Identify the business use case. Why should we work together? Why should we exchange data? What's the value? What's the advantage? And you are a small, medium company. I am a large one. I give you a very concrete example. Gaia-X, which is one of the lighthouse projects of Gaia-X. Huge project, the first one. It's not the only one. Everybody talks about Gaia-X. We will talk about many others. Anyway, BMW, Volkswagen, Daimler get together. Everybody understands this is a revolution in the automotive market, of course. So one day I speak to the CEO of Brembo. Everybody knows Brembo, the brake maker. You can imagine Brembo is a giant. No, they make brakes. They are not OEMs. So their problem is being competitive to China, to whatever kind of producers which are cheaper. So when I explained them, the possibility to join Gaia-X, because in this way you can exchange data and create reciprocal values, I said, stop, Francesco, you don't have to explain me anything. If BMW, Volkswagen, and Daimler are getting together to do something, I have to be there, period. Because either way, I'm in or out. If they succeed or not, it's a different point. But if I'm not in, I lose the opportunity to stay in the market, to strengthen the relationship with those players. We just heard that Slovakia is very much an industrial country, very much dependent on manufacturing, very much dependent on automotive. Should I say very much dependent on Germany? Not at all. So you can imagine that if Germany decides to create a federation, a digital federation for manufacturing, for automotive, for whatever, you better stay in. It doesn't matter whether the project was started in Germany or Austria or France. You better stay in, because if you have been working in that value chain, or if you want to work with that value chain, staying in will give you more opportunity to become stronger, to improve your competitiveness, to strengthen your relationship with your partners and with your clients, to reduce your cost to market, to improve your quality, to improve the part matching, to reduce, to increase the margins because you reduce the cost, etc., etc. So, what is the magic sauce? You need to basically identify a common business case, build consensus, sell inside the organization, find common outcomes, offer reciprocal and balanced outcome. Now look at the technical problem. Okay, what do we need? We need to trust each other's identity. We need to trust each other's data sources. Why should I trust your data source? We need to trust the way you access my data and I access yours. We need to trust the way you use my data such that you use just the data I make you available, not others. So the so-called usage policies. We need to trust the mechanisms we use to govern the federation. We need to trust the federator, which is the kind of intermediary in the Data Governance Act, which is already active. We need to trust the technologies we use. In a word, we need to trust. So the technological problem is not data exchange. The technological problem is not the cloud platform name or even the location of the cloud platform. The technology problem is you need to use a technology that help you trust, building trust. So you see the paradigm shift. Technology has always been seen as a way to automate, digitize, and collect data from sensors from all the sources, aggregate, correlate, apply algorithm, Gen AI, large language model, whatever you want. Now, the paradigm shifts. We need to use technology to trust technology. We need to use technology to trust the participant in a digital collaboration. The problem is even worse because, yes, of course, you need to build a common trust framework, and that's what Gaia-X does. This is at the core of what we deliver. But think about, you have to do it now in Slovakia, so you build your federation of small, medium manufacturers in the automotive place, in the Slovakian automotive industry. Fair enough. Then you want to work with the same federation that was built in Germany and maybe in Japan. And then you talk to each other and say, okay, what trust model did you use? Well, I used mine. What did you use? I made another one. Oh, I'm thinking to build one from scratch. You will smash your face into the same problem. So when you see ecosystem of ecosystems, the problem of trust becomes bigger because you have to trust the other's trust framework. That's why having a common trust framework in Europe, which is a common set of rules and a common set of technologies to verify those rules, is paramount. There is no such a regulation, unfortunately, yet emanated by the European Commission. There is regulation about cybersecurity, regulation about digital markets, digital services, data governance, Data Act, artificial intelligence, telecommunication. There is no single regulation telling you what it takes to be trusted as a digital service. And we're not trying to build regulation, but we're trying to fill the gap, if you see what I mean. So, yes. The problem is we are not in control of the technology. We are controlled by technology. The problem is that our data ecosystems are disjoint. We have a lot of data, but there is no common way to exchange them in a secure way. We have a lot of infrastructures, on-premises, private, hybrid, public, cloud, whatever, but they are not talking to each other. They are not interoperable. Most of them are based on proprietary architectures. So we have a disjoint ecosystem which does not enable data economy. What we want to do is we want to regain control of technology and we want to join the two halves of the X, of the Gaia-X. So the upper half is the data ecosystem half, the lower half is the infrastructure ecosystem half. And in order to glue them together, we build the Gaia-X framework, which is built on those three pillars. Data exchange, because of course you need to exchange data to build data economy. Federation, because of course you have to trust each other and federate into a digital kind of cooperative. And compliance, because of course you need to trust the technologies you use. Without those three ingredients, data economy will not be triggered. So what do? We develop the Gaia-X framework, three pillars: compliance, federation, data exchange, three layers: functional specs, technical specs, code. Pretty easy. You can browse on the web. So we are not just an association doing white papers and stuff like that. We are developing real code, and my friend, the CTO of Gaia-X, Pierre Granlier, here is leading the development side. So he can go into any technical detail, although this is not possible in the occasion. And we develop our own compliance mechanism, which is pretty sophisticated, but it's based on the W3C, the consortium behind the web. So we are not reinventing the wheel. We are adopting existing standards and we are translating them for a specific purpose. So for the technical ones, you can see we're using verifiable credentials, DID, so digital identity. We are using registries to store trusted anchors to verify the credentials. So there's a pretty sophisticated mechanism that allows basically anyone to describe a service in a set of declarations that are verified through our framework, each one, and the verification is stored in an immutable place where everybody has access. So basically we provide transparency onto something that is black boxed. Not only, this year we moved from, let me say, the concept definition, which was 2021, the design of the framework, which was 2022, we are moving to the operationalization. So by the end of this year, there will be a network of Gaia-X digital clearing houses. What is it? Is a node of execution of the Gaia-X compliance services, which will be available to anyone, such that everybody will be capable to publish their services, describing them in Gaia-X terms, and fill a catalog of Gaia-X compliance services. We have already roughly 2,000 services ready to be published. We didn't invent them. Our members, dozens of particular technology providers, describe their services in a demo catalog. It's still a demo catalog because the services are not up and running in the public yet, but we are working to convert them into the public catalog. So 2,000 is not much, but it's not nothing. You can imagine this will be tangible in Europe. So in a nutshell, you want to summarize Gaia-X in one slider? That's it. That is the problem we started from. The split X of this joint data ecosystem and this joint infrastructure ecosystem. The need to rejoin them through a common framework that provide data exchange, provide for data exchange, federation, and compliance mechanisms, and the operationalization of these services in a way that is accessible to everybody and anybody. This will open, we hope, a new generation of trustworthy digital services to drive and enable data economy. Last but not least, all I'm saying is totally in line with European data strategy, which on one side wants to create a common data market, which is based on data spaces, but to create data spaces, you need trusted way to exchange data. And on the other side, the need for creating a computing continuum, which is the connection between central cloud and edge computing. Otherwise, there will be no 4G, 5G, 6G, whatever, but you need to bring the algorithms close to where the data is generated, and we need to move from a central model of cloud into a very hyper-distributed model of cloud, which does not exist yet out in the market. So we are trying to enable this. We are not creating a cloud stack. We are not providing, this is not our objective, but we are creating the mechanisms that will also support the creation of a new generation of distributed cloud. So the state of play. We have a 5-year plan. Like I said, year 1 was the setup, year 2 was the adoption, year 3 is the growth. We are in year 3. As you can imagine, as you can see, the maybe you cannot read it, but the end result of year 3 is the turnaround. You see on the right side, ASBL push at the top and market pools at the bottom. What I wanted to do when I joined, I said, we need to find a way to push in the market, evangelize, and build and deliver in the end. But then the market has to adopt, because there is no way to succeed. We cannot convince the market that what we are saying, what we're doing is good. It's the market that will decide whether this is useful to the market or not. And if that's the case, the market will start pooling. And this is what we need to achieve in order to create a snowball effect. The more companies are onboarded in Gaia-X, the more companies decide to adopt the Gaia-X standards, the more providers publish Gaia-X compliance services, the more users require to have Gaia-X compliance in their procurement rules, the more value chains are digitalized through the Gaia-X mechanisms. The more projects we have, the more Gaia-X will become a de facto standard. We are a totally private association. We have no public funding, so we have no way to influence, but try to make something useful and good. We already have 11 lighthouse projects. As you can see, many sectors: agriculture, automotive, industrial, energy, tourism, etc. And we have others coming. There is one on skills, for example, that will be added shortly. But besides these 11 or 12 that will be, we have 100 projects, roughly. We have a pipeline of 100 projects that are adopting the Gaia-X standard. Where do they come from? The different hubs. So we hope the Slovakian hub will start soon developing their own projects and joining existing projects. This is important. Don't start from reinventing something. Look at what exists and try to understand if any Slovakian company can fit into any of these projects. I can recommend for sure Catena-X, but also EU ProGigant is a very specific project on manufacturing, started by Austria and Germany, started in Austria, and it's an Austrian-German collaboration, very specific for small, medium business in the manufacturing area. Yesterday, we had a demo of this in Ljubljana, and it was very much appreciated. The Slovenian economy is very similar, possibly smaller than Slovakian, but very industrial-centric. Okay, we have a demo catalog ready to become a real catalog, and this is just to show you what happened in the last 3 years. So some people believe that Gaia-X is late. Honestly, I think a lot of work has been done by the association in these last 3 years. We have a plan, a 5 years plan. We're still walking. We have a structure and organization. We have a scope defined. We have designed the framework. We have designed the compliance model and the trust framework. We have implemented it. We have developed the demo catalog. We have the list of projects, and we are delivering the Gaia-X Digital Clearinghouse. Next event is the summit in Alicante, where you will see all the results that we are still working and in these weeks summarized, and I think it will be very, very important to attend there online or physically. So almost 380 members, many working groups, all working for one single mission. And just a summary of the figures that we have grown from 21 to now. So a lot has been done, and I hope this will be interesting for you, and we will discuss also in the next panel whatever you want to ask about it. But I wanted to close on this slide. I think Gaia-X can be seen as a kind of European Union for data economy, because we do need to put together all these dimensions, the economical dimension, the political dimension, the technical dimension, in one single go, in one single solution. And if Gaia-X has got some merits, I believe it is because we tried to combine all these different dimensions in one single solution, trying to shape one single problem. And so far, it looks like we are the most relevant initiative, not just in Europe. That's why we also have a lot of hubs outside of Europe, which is a sign that if you do the right things, this will not be seen as a sovereign populist action, but it will be seen as something that everybody needs. And we are really proud of that. We hope you will be helping us, and they will be proud as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Francesco. So now we will start the panel. So I will welcome the panelists on the floor. Please, Francesco, you can stay. The second panelist is Pierre Gronlier, who is responsible for the technical questions. The third panelist is Mr. Roland Fadrani, CEO of Gaia-X. And the last is from Slovakia, Mr. Emil Fitos, the chairman of Slovak Center of Digital Innovation. So thank you very much. I will ask a lot of questions, so it will be really open, so you can ask also the question from the public. But at the first time, I will continue with Roland, if I may. How we will operationalize it?
Yes, we did. As Francesco already said, it's through the digital clearinghouses, because we had a very simple problem. We came up with an idea how we want to execute. This is working. Okay, so we had to. It's not working. Yeah. Okay. So we had to operationalize that trust framework, and there was one thing we could do. We could only specify, but then we have no control about the implementation. The second option was to build code, which Pierre and his team supervised and did. But finally, we couldn't execute that. This trust center is really done in a way that it's specified, or the code is really the original code. So that's why we went one step further and said, in order to enable that network, we need to have a central place where trust is actually validated, and that is the digital clearinghouse. And so there are three mandatory components, which is compliance, let's keep it one for more notarization and the registry, but we have also introduced optional components. And why did we do that? And that is exactly because of lowest barrier possible to adopt, and that goes back to small and medium enterprises. So we have components in there that large projects will do on their own, like for example a wizard, a catalog, a wallet. That is something they will produce. But small companies need as much help as little entry barriers as possible.
Thank you, Roland. Pierre. Sorry. Thank you, thank you very much, Roland. Pierre, so you are responsible for the technical questions. So how we can digitalize trust?
A working one. Thanks. The first step towards digitalizing trust usually is understanding what we want to digitalize. So what is trust? I will not enter a philosophical debate about with trust, but I can provide few elements on how do we enable trust without digitalization, and then we can speak about digitalization. The first thing is we need to have access to information. So we talk about value chain. How do you get the data? How do you get the access to the description of what service you want to use? Where is the data coming from? What are the policy attached to the data? How can I use it for? Where is it coming, and so on? Second point, how do you verify those information? Who was granting the policies? If this is data about natural person, do you have the consent? Where is the traceability of that consent? Do you have the authorization? Consent that's specific to personal data, natural data subject. Do you have authorization? And then the final point, the third point, is the history. If someone shows the best credential in the world, but you don't know where this person is coming from, that you might not trust that person or that services. And once you have those three components, then you can start to apply digitalization. When I've mentioned information, how do you enable semantic interoperability between different type of actors? So you need to pick a vocabulary. Second thing, verification, digital signature. And third thing with the history, that's how do you trace what has been done. And there are challenges, for example, traceability. How do you also implement privacy and confidentiality of business information? So that's how we work on digitalization of trust.
Thank you, Pierre. Emil, now we heard a lot of things about Gaia-X. So how you can see it from Slovakian side, and what do you want to ask, maybe?
First, how I see it. It was said that we are automotive country, which is correct regarding the number of employed people, etc. Well, we have also ICT sector. This ICT sector was 1/3 of automotive in revenues. Nevertheless, the added value of ICT sector was 30%, 31% higher than the added value of automotive in recent year, and it's rising each year. Our income tax delivered was 68% higher than this taxes delivered by automotive sector. The problem is that this sector is very small. It is only 5% of total added value of the whole of the industries generally. So raising this sector is in a natural goal of this country. Because of the taxes and let's say sources delivered to education, to healthcare, etc., etc. So how to raise? Once again, we are a country of manufacturing. 1/3 of people is employed in manufacturing. 32%. This is high second level in Europe, maybe in the world. And I think our digital industry or data business can only grow when this manufacturing will be highly industrialized, more and more digitized, with more and more data being collected and used in their practical operations. There are several ways how to deploy, how to get use of the data in the business. One of them is to use data for improving your operations, which is exactly the case of Slovakia. The second is using the customer data or the data about usage of your product at the customer side for improving your product. This will be of high value because we want to deliver to final customers. We are B2B economy until now, and we want to raise this approach to final markets, to final customers. Another approach is to use data as assets for delivering additional services. I think there will be examples in Slovakia, but I don't think this will be the majority. And fourth case is using data for interconnecting the customers. I wouldn't give a cent for this. We are too small market to develop something like Uber, Airbnb, etc. This won't be our case. So when thinking about this, it looks like we have to concentrate on our manufacturing industry, digitizing it, and giving business to our ICT companies in this particular field. And if we can bridge the gap between different industries and ICT using trustworthy environment, which can be provided by Gaia-X, then we will go for it. Unfortunately, we are in our minds in greenfield situation. We have to learn much more about this. So we don't know enough to step into this world. This is the situation here.
I think it's working. Yeah, thanks, Emil, because this is a very great point, and I don't want to go into any sophisticated economical debates. We have, distinguished guests here, but let me deep dive into this for 1 second. I'm writing also a scientific article on the topic. The problem you raised is very important. You said in order to feed education, public services, so basically the wealth of a country, you need incomes, you need taxes. So somebody may say, okay, so do we need Gaia-X to increase taxes? No, but follow me for a second. What Emil said is extremely important. The less you are productive, the less you are profitable as a company, as a country, doesn't matter, as a production ecosystem, the less margins you produce, the less incomes you produce for the local country, you will spin a negative loop. And this is what is happening in Europe for a simple reason. The prevalence of our economy is industrial, like it or not. And industrial has got very low margin and is very tied to the cost of production and cost of material. The cost of production is not competitive with the rest of the world. It's a cyclical thing, and we all know the cost of labor outside of Europe is cheaper. In 20 years, the cost of labor in Europe will be cheaper than in China. Not today. The cost of raw material, even worse. So what is the difference of data economy? There is a big difference. In data economy, the cost of material is zero. And the material is regeneratable infinitively. It's data. And the cost of labor can be higher because the investment you do to build a data platform, let me say, a digital platform, a digital product, a digital service, it requires all the investments up front because you have to develop first. Maybe it will fail, but you have to put the cost in front without knowing exactly the revenues. But once you get the revenues will translate in pure margin. Basically, you have a repeat business with pure margin. This is the only way to survive in an economy where the price to the market cannot be tied anymore to the cost of production. Otherwise, you lose competitivity. If instead the price to the market is proportional to the value perceived, you can create big values using your data, making your data available, and keeping the price high, so keeping a sustainable level of salaries, a sustainable level of income and wealth overall. Translated in simple concept, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. But you can imagine that if Slovakian companies decide to group together and make some of their data available to, for example, in the automotive or in other industries, across themselves, and even to others which are there, for example, OEM, they can easily show a different face to the market, which is not just the one of providers of parts or solutions or working on assemblies, on assembly parts, but also providing information that is extremely useful for those that will integrate those parts, those that will engineer on those parts, which are missing totally those type of information. This is a missing value that is not made available for two reasons, I said, because there is missing infrastructure to make it happen, and for lack of trust. You are scared maybe of providing your data to large companies. This is what we need to trigger to make it possible. Before the technology, let me say, Gaia-X is trying to make available some technologies, but the most important problem is the business problem, is the business decision, which must be supported by the political action. So the policymakers have to say, look, this is the right thing to do. Group together, try to build something, some common platforms, try to integrate with the value chains, and the industry have to follow, and we just provide, let me say, the enabler. We cannot drive the economy, of course. We cannot do everything. But we are making available the technology to make it happen. What needs to happen, not because we want it, it's a shift into this new model of economy, which is more sustainable.
Thank you. Can I react? I think we have agreed that it's of high importance for and our interest to step into the stage. Now there will be many barriers, also technical, but at the beginning we have information barrier, and I think I very much appreciate you being here and communicating to us, and we have to spread the message. Nevertheless, I think we have to make the message even more concrete and more targeted. We have to deliver messages to several different sectors. Like the message for energy will be different, even industries. The message for chemistry will be different than the standard electroengineering assembly or something else. This is one view, which is a sector view. But secondly, we have to deliver different communications to people who hold the budget. They do not need technical information, but somebody has to guarantee the trustworthiness and reliability. We have to have different messages for business strategies, for salesmen, and even for the technical staff who will understand all the ontology and the policies on the very low level, and will be able to use all the provided tools and applications which are already there and will be there quite soon, I think, and will help the companies to get on board.
Yes, it is a lot of work that we have in front of us. So this is the reason that we have to cooperate together. Yes, I completely agree with you. Francesco, please, you started exactly to explain that why it is also we need political support. And so please make a little bit much more details or explain why only business couldn't be alone. And the second point is what I want to say, that how we spoke a lot about the European strategy, European data strategy, and we know that we make a lot of things also outside of Europe. For example, in the USA, we have the several hubs. So these 2 points I'd like to explain, and after I will come to Roland.
Easy ones. Okay. So I will get back, maybe I will ask Roland to answer your question because I think it's a very good one. Yes, we need different communication messages and different communication channels to different stakeholders and to different verticals. And that's what we started to do. And that's also where we need your help, to be honest, because if we want to reach out to the CEO community of Slovakia, with all the due respect, we cannot do it by ourselves. We need your help. So that's possibly a call for help here. Back to your question, what is the reason for having a strong relation with the European member states government? Well, think about I don't have a drawing here, but think about the association as a central bubble in the middle of Europe. This is what the international association Gaia-X is. Then we have a constellation of hubs in different regions. Slovakia is one of them. We have 21. 5 or 6 of them are outside of Europe, by the way. Then we have a simple rule to, let me say, set up a new hub. So when we set up a new hub, and Martina knows very well, we only ask 2 things. One is that there is a local community interested. 2, there is a local government interest in supporting it. Not necessarily financially, but interested in Gaia-X as an initiative. So the local government must recognize that what we have been talking this morning is important to them. Otherwise, we just wait. Why is that? Because the constellation of hubs is a set of antennas in the territories to capture the specific business needs. Like you said, like Peter and Stefan said, Slovakia is a very, as a devotion in industrial sector, etc. So it's slightly different from France, Spain, etc. So we need to have those local hubs to understand what are the specific priorities, the specific needs. And we pretend to have a direct relationship with the local government, with the ministry devoted to the digital transition, in order to have a one-to-one relationship with the hub coordinator and the ministry coordinator. In this way, we have a channel that goes from the central association down to the local governments. And then we do another thing. We have a governmental advisory board, which meets twice a year, where we put all the government representatives, we have 15 of them now, only European countries for the moment, sitting around the table, sharing each other their priorities, their strategies, their challenges, and talking to us to understand together how we can support them with the help of the local hubs. So the reason of the local government involvement is not to get funding. Let me say, money is not the problem nowadays. Let's be honest. Europe has got a lot of money to spend. Between structural and recovery funds, there's a lot of money. The problem is spending the money in the right way. And this is the key challenge for governments, because most of the governments sometimes don't know where to spend the money for meaningful digitalization projects. And to be meaningful, there are 3 characteristics. 1, it has to produce some business impact, otherwise you waste the money. 2, you have to avoid dispersion of the money. If you invest in 10, 20 different projects, doing 10, 20 different things, you're not possibly producing something very useful. You are dispersing. 3, you have to be sure that the consortium or the consortia that will implement the solution are capable to do it. So we provide a common framework, a common solution where all the companies around Europe decide that they agree. Multiple hubs with real economy player in the local country capable to do things. They make proposal and the government can evaluate them and decide maybe to support and fund. I think it's a virtuous loop. It's not a mechanism to get the money. It's not a cash machine, let's be honest. But it works very well, because to my experience, there is no other place where all the digitalization ministries, representatives sit together in a very friendly environment, just talking to each other like we're doing here, to try to do something together on Gaia-X. I think it's a great, great opportunity.
Yes, I can only agree it, because we have several workshops together with another hubs, and we see all the representatives from the advisory governmental board. Roland, please, I have 2 questions, and please, if you have the questions, don't be shy to ask. Okay, so after. Micro. No.
I'm missing one information. We understand how digital economy is important. We understand the initiative of Gaia-X to keep European economy competitive. But comparing to the world, is this the unique concept of framework, or there are other or similar, let's say, competing activities in the US or in Asia?
It's a very good question, and I'm proud to say that I'm not aware of any other like that. I'm also proud to say that every single, for example, big player like Microsoft, Amazon, Google, I can say VMware, Oracle, all the big Americans, all of them have an internal strategic program for providing sovereign offering. But none of them is pretending to create their own, let me say, trust framework, because all of them, they are smart. They understood that you cannot pretend to impose your trust model to others. So they are all collaborating inside Gaia-X to contribute and build a common trust framework. Why? They want to play in Europe, like all of us, like all the European players, and they understood Gaia-X is kind of changing the rules of the game. So you have two ways. I refuse those new rules of the game, and I pretend to be playing by myself. I don't think this will succeed. Or I play together and try to, influence, adapt as much as I can. But we as an association, we impede any single member, being European or non-European, to hijack or distort the initiative. We have very specific and strict rules inside the association that prevents this from happening.
Let me add one more thing, because there is 4 important European groups that work together in what is called the Data Space Business Alliance. And that is the BDVA, that is IDSA, Gaia, and FIWARE. And when you think those 4, we have a lot of discussions about which one is the right. And I created this picture to say, because there is this saying, on which horse should I bet? And the thing is, you need to understand, those are not 4 horses that are racing. These are 4 horses carrying 1 car. Okay, so this is really what we're trying to do in Europe, and I think it was founded, Francesco, bit more than a year ago, so that we say data exchange or data interoperability is really the core domain of IDSA. Trust and interoperability is in the core domain of Gaia, and so we try to make sure that each of those organizations that represents a large number of members on each of them are working together in Europe.
So considering we had the business and already the operational point of view, let me add the technical one. Gaia-X is also not yet another technical stack that you deploy. In fact, the technical footprint of Gaia-X is rather small. One of the things that is unique about Gaia-X is, first, as Roland very well articulated, we work with other initiatives and we work together, not like competing which one will have the biggest market share. The second thing is we also adopt a lot of the existing framework regulations that are out there. We reuse the European blockchain service infrastructure. We reuse the European blockchain, the European semantic interoperability framework. We lean on a lot of existing standards, either de facto or de jure, so things that are widely adopted already on the market. We align on the same technical specification than FIWARE, W3C Solids, other initiatives that share data, that tries to build this common framework for edge to cloud. I forgot about that. Out to cloud continuum, computing continuum edge to cloud. So that's something that is unique. The last point, one important thing about Gaia-X is also the relation with the government. I mean, Gaia-X without the GAB, without the governmental advisory board, to get this feedback from the states will be less impacting. And I believe that no other organization has that.
Yes. Okay. My name is Iveta. I am from the Ministry of Economy. Thank you very much for inspiring discussion here. And I think I have a question to you, Francesco, most probably also to you, Pierre. There are a lot of players in the market outside of automotive industry, maybe services. I have a specific example of insurance sector. Do we have certain project and an example that we can consider for these players who are in a difficult situation due to, you mentioned that already, Pierre, data on physical persons, confidential information, how to deal with such a situation, such a sector? Do you have anything to consider potentially when we join you in Alicante, where you plan to present your projects? Please help me there. Thank you.
I will keep it short and then you complement. We do have projects in the insurance, in the health. with hospitals, with doctors that explain how they work, because Gaia-X is not going to replace the expert domain. That will be a bit selfish or wrong. So we listen a lot about what are the requirements. They are constrained, and the regulation is already applying a lot of constraint on them. And we help them to digitalize. So it's a panel. We don't have the time to necessarily go deep dive in every possible technical implementation that we've done work, but I will be very happy to have either further discussion after, offline, in Alicante. So short answer, yes, we do have initiatives that help us to answer those challenges.
Yeah, just quickly, there is both technical mechanisms to deal with personal data consent, which is fundamental for those type of sectors like healthcare, insurance, but honestly, there is no sector that does not use personal data. So this is going to come. So Pierre is working very heavily, for example, the identity management technologies that we use inside the framework, because if we use the same technologies that are used also for personal identity management, is better. And if we embed mechanisms to grant the consent of personal data, we can enable those type of businesses. Second, we have working groups that are dedicated to specific verticals. So healthcare is one of the biggest. Insurance is not as big as healthcare, but the problem in the end is the same. So forget about the domain. If you need to get access to the personal data, you need to have a framework facilitating it. Otherwise, you're stuck at the beginning because you don't know how to overcome that problem. And I think this is where we're helping. So the answer is yes, both sides. On the business side, you will find the members that can bring their experience. On the technical side, you can find now, and in Alicante, of course, some technical examples that explain what we're doing in order to deal with that. It's the week of the 6th of November, if I remember well.
The invitation will come. The invitation,
Invitation
will come.
Invitation will come, yes.
We have another. Yeah, sorry.
One short thing, because it was in Francesco's presentation. There was this trust framework explained with the 3 pillars. And the first 2 pillars are under the governance of the ISBL, and that is the basic, compliant, and the labels. And the 3rd pillar was industry specific, and that is where the industry vertical, need to execute governance, decide on criteria or have regulations, and decide on trust anchors and conformity assessment bodies, but you can use the same technology to verify them.
We have the question.
Hi, my name is Pavel Fukac. I work at the Ministry of Informatization. I've been covering Data Governance Act and Data Act, the legislative processes on the EU level. I was wondering, Francesco, in your presentation, you've mentioned the concept of data intermediaries. And since we are quite close to the application phase of the Data Governance Act, I was wondering what are some of the questions or challenges you would specifically pay attention to in the implementation phase to better facilitate the development and collaboration within the Gaia-X project, let's say on the Slovak level? Thank you.
Yeah, I'll try to give a short answer because I think my colleague can add on this. But you touch a very good point. The GA is active, and the implementation of the intermediary concept is a very difficult thing, because it requires that basically you, as owner of the data, cannot treat your own data. You need to rely on someone else doing it. Let me oversimplify it, which is a matter of trust again. So what we are doing, our members, our projects are doing, they are facing the problem. So we have projects like Gaia-X and others that have faced the problem. Who do we trust as an intermediary? The translation of the intermediary into the Gaia-X framework is the federator. The physical implementation, and Pierre, I'm sure will correct me because sometimes he is a CTO also, but the physical implementation of the federator is the digital clearinghouse. So we translated physically a conceptual model that is mandated by the DGA in a way that is understandable and implementable. To give you a concrete example, Gaia-X, which is this federation of manufacturers, decided to have T-System as the federator, and intrinsically it is acting as the intermediary. Why? Because they trust the system not as a competitor in the automotive place, pretty easy to understand. And we can't help it. It's a business decision. But also they trust the fact that T-System is using the Gaia-X framework in order to govern the federation. So the combination of our framework technology and an implicit, intrinsic trust between business parties is the implementation of the intermediate.
It's a difficult question because we will learn with the DA and the DGA within the coming months. I prefer to answer that question with an example from the GDPR. GDPR was created a few years later. We are 5 years after it entered in force. We are still struggling with it. And by we, I mean everyone here in this room have the consent management pop-up on every website. We don't know at the end really who is getting it, what is it being for. You use the email and then you receive marketing from another company and you realize that it was anyway sold to some agency doing advertising. So GDPR by itself, which is fairly now known to the public, is still a challenge. It's already a challenge. One other thing, for example, we went beyond GDPR in Gaia-X Trust Framework. We consider that a data set, as long as it's about a natural person, with data anonymized or not anonymized, we require the consent to be attached to it. Because after the GDPR was enforced, we realized that two anonymized data sets can be joined together and we can re-identify a natural person. So this is one of the challenges that was not even known before it was enforced. And because technology evolves, technology will always evolve faster than legislation. We've learned that, and we integrated now rules within Gaia-X that says the data set contains data about natural person. We don't even ask if this is anonymized or not. Where was the consent granted and the authorization granted? So sometimes that can be seen as a burden, but data is not sometimes exchanged, not just because I'm afraid that the data will be used by someone else to do something I don't want. Data sometimes is not used by the consumer saying that, am I really want to take the risk to use the data to train, to use something for my product? Not knowing that maybe someone later will complain that I've been using his data and the consent was not really traced or tracked. So the usage of the data is not just a worrying or fear, a risk, trust, a risk assessment from the producer, but it's also a risk assessment from the consumer point of view. And to answer then now about DA and DGA, I think that we will learn more about the challenges within few months, and we will adapt to that.
Do we have another question? Okay, you can always come with the questions. I see the State Secretary from Agriculture. I'd like to ask maybe how the data sharing Gaia-X could help also in other sectors, because we spoke a lot about manufacturing, which is normal, but I will be happy if we can share some other ideas.
Yeah, we have a lot of lighthouse projects. We have seen them. And I think I will start from automotive again, because when you think about automotive, it can't be seen as a closed shop between the OEMs and tier 1, 2, 3, whatever providers. But when you look into the European strategy of electric vehicles, it's obvious that at some point the automotive data space need to kind of find a way to negotiate terms and integrate with the energy and utility data space, and consequently with smart cities. And when you see that view, you need to see there's different lighthouse projects at the moment. They are representing different ecosystems. But the beauty is that the first ones had the burden that they had to build the entire stack. So they had to build the infrastructure, they had to build the data space capabilities, things like a trust framework, interoperability, federation services, and so on. But at some point, we will have a lot of those available, and it will be the T-Systems and Arubas and OVHs of the world that are creating those infrastructure plus the data space capabilities, and they will have something like data space as a service. And that will accelerate the digitalization. So it's actually what we try to deliver with standardization and the clearinghouse is a decoupling between the business application and the stack. And that will allow different industries to adopt fast. So for example, we have an initiative also in the finance industry where they try to automate compliance. So they have a lot of compliance rules. We have a large project in the energy sector, which is Gaia-X. We have a very large project in the agricultural area, which is AG Data Hub. So it's really the lighthouse projects are well spread over different industries.
If I may add to that also, thinking about the software engineers that might listen or hear about that, and the engineers overall, that this afternoon or tomorrow we'll go back to the desk and say, okay, there was a nice presentation about data, digital sovereignty and so on. What does it change on my daily activity? Data doesn't flow on rainbow. And no one is waking up in the morning creating virtual clusters of virtual machines just for the fun of having some IT resources. So data always is attached to compute, network, storage type of resources. And you always deploy compute, network, storage resources to process, store, transfer data. And one of the things that is unique also about Gaia-X is that to take care of both layers. You have the data layers, you have the infrastructure, and one cannot work with the other. I mean, from data engineering, increasing storage, that might just be a cursor that you put on a web interface. And for the person in the data center, data, that's the hard drive. So those two layers need to talk together to understand each other. And when we work on software development, on software solutions, technological solutions, we always include software and hardware. If you want to build trust, one of the components, the second one was, are you able to verify where this is coming from? And this is something that you see in the manufacturing. Your part is a physical part. When you want to build trust in terms of cryptographic tools, you need to rely on hardware. And this is something that we really consider on a daily basis in Gaia-X, that how do you join? It's not just a fancy virtual digital world. You have digital twins, you have manufacturing, and you need to anchor that into the hardware parts.
Emil, please. Yeah. So if you have a question, don't be shy to ask. I have the question to you. How do you see this big announcement about the project Slovakia-X?
I have heard this for the first time.
Yeah, it was the surprise.
I'm happy to see the cooperations between two ministries. This is quite rare. So very good. The question is how do you want to tackle the real need, the real demand, which is somewhere out there in the industries, in different sectors, and this demand is sometimes or most often not formulated in the words of ICT or in the words of processing the data and using the data. It's just a bunch of problems which are in each industry formulated in different words to collect those problems, to structure them, and to formulate them in a words which can be then addressed by particular offering. This will be a tough case. But somebody here said that the demand is a next step. You are pushing, and now you need to pull. I absolutely agree with this. And to raise the pool, it has to be a qualified demand. And it has to be well-structured demands, and there has to be some also financial strength behind this demand, or at least support from any type of funding. So if this Slovakia-X initiative will go down to this level and talk to industries and help them formulating their problems in a Gaia-X language, then I think it can bring results, and it's quite good that those two ministries are working on this. It makes sense for me. Thanks.
Thank you very much. I think it is really crucial to real cooperation, because digital transformation without the sector's experts, I think it will not be successful. It is the reason why we are really very happy that it is also Ministry of Education here, representative from Ministry of Agriculture. So I am really happy that in Slovakia we know to do it. Pierre, please. I'd like to ask you, because I see it on LinkedIn that you are proud about it, so about automation of contracting.
It's a very interesting topic because it mixes legal and tech. From a personal point of view, I believe this is a field that will only grow over time. We have more and more regulation, so we need to have more and more tools to help with the regulation. Just looking at the European legislation, all the acts that are coming up, AI, Digital Market Act, Simple Data, I mean, we have thousands of them. How are we going to process them? I mean, this is supposed to be helping our European economy, and we need to make sure that it doesn't transform into a burden. So that's why automation, in terms of mixing tech and legal, is inevitable. About the contracting is a very interesting part because when we transfer data, that's an exchange. And when you dig into the bottom of it, that's a contract. There is a very wide range of contract type. Considering there is not a uniform civil law in Europe, you still have to rely on the common basis for what is a contract. Usually that's defined by an offer, an agreement, and then an intent to be legally bound to that agreement. And it goes from signing a paper in front of the notary for buying an apartment, a house, a building, to putting a €2 coins into a vending machine. Those two extremes are contracts. Helping with the digitalization, automation of contract, 2 steps. The first one, you can automate or help. Automating can be a bit scary because you can think about software developers and then, okay, that's not for me, so you park it. I will prefer to use the word assist or help. So you can help with contractualization on two axes. The process, what is a legally valid document, where do you store it, how do you sign it, which type of signature can be used. Fortunately, the European Commission already provides a lot of framework for that. We have EID, part of EIDAS for electronic digital signature. So first one, assist, help with the process. The second part, help and assist with the reasoning of the clauses. So once you have the contract, do you have a template? Do you have similar terms in the contract? And reasoning means that you can, again, help with the negotiation of contract clauses using tools. I can use software, computers, but again, I prefer not to scare non-IT people here to say assist using tools. So that's what I meant by automating contracting. It's helping with 2 steps, process, and then the reasoning of the terms of the clauses inside the contract. And we do have an increasing number of tools at our disposal right now to help in that area.
Thank you. Roland, you mentioned a lot of time this Gaia-X clearinghouse. I think it's called clearinghouse, but it is not clear. So I know that maybe to really explain and to see, because I know that in Austria they work or they have already Gaia-X clearinghouse, and to explain how, for example, in Slovakia we will need our clearinghouse, or how we can be in touch or use another, or how will it be functional?
So first of all, the idea of the digital clearinghouse was really something that actually we 3 invented last year because of some trouble we had on making sovereignty real. And the principle that has not been touched too much so far is federation. So we have federated services, meaning you don't have a single point of failure. You can have, in theory, an endless number of clearinghouses. And we are also not selecting clearinghouses. We are creating a contract, and any provider that is willing to run the business, is willing to adhere to those clauses, can apply and will become a clearinghouse. So that is totally open. And that's why I say this is the democratization of trust, because you can have any kind of clearinghouse provider as long as you stick to the contract. It doesn't need to be that all people that are sharing data need to be in the same clearinghouse. That's the concept of federation. Maybe Pierre can talk more about this. But the thing is, you can have clearinghouses in Slovakia. You can use clearinghouses from somewhere else. And if you do business, for example, with a company in Austria or in Germany, an OEM car maker, they will have T-Systems, but your local company may use a local ICT provider who has become a clearinghouse in Slovakia. So it's really completely open. And that is also part of the concept of trust, because there is not a center and a tier 2 supplier, for example, need to trust the trusted partner from BMW or Volkswagen. No, you can use your own trust anchor and you use your own digital clearinghouse for that part.
Thank you. I'd like to ask you, Francesco, and Roland too, because and Pierre too. So about not our roles as a hubs, but about our hubs network. How you see it? Why it is great to be there? Because I have only really the good positive. I think not only impact on our association, Industry Innovation Cluster, but I see a very nice, good impact, for example, on universities. We bring a lot of universities in the project based on Gaia-X. Also now the companies start in Slovakia really to be involved. So this is my question.
Okay, I think I answered already partially before, saying that the constellation of the hubs is for us a necessary mechanism to identify real business opportunity in the different markets, in the different regions. But I put myself into your shoes. Like, okay, I'm not a member. Why should I join Gaia-X, or why should I work with a hub? Now, you have seen we have 370 members, 380 members. So if you go on the membership list, the member directory on our website, you will very probably find companies and which are our members that you cannot reach out to. You cannot speak to them. You don't have an idea of how to make business with them, or share an idea with them, or maybe collaborate in a common project. This is what is happening inside Gaia-X. So being part of Gaia-X means being part of the largest industrial community around Europe, for sure, and where all the members share the same interest, building data economy through a common approach, which is based on Gaia-X. So it is a great opportunity for, like you said, for business, but I want to highlight again, small, medium business in particular, because they typically don't have access to the large giants, and academics, because academics is important, in particular to trigger the innovation ecosystem, if it is innovation for the purpose. So innovation and development, not just innovation and research. So inside Gaia-X, there is an opportunity for universities, research institutions, etc., to work together with business partners to implement innovation in real business cases. So that's, I think, the summary.
Thank you. Roland? You have to add.
I really don't know what to add.
Okay, no, it was
exactly,
no problem. It was for fun. Emil, please, really, we will finish really at 12. So if you have the questions,
Data exchange. Data exchange is about safe networks as well. For me, it's a natural question because I come from Ericsson. My name is Anton Ziak. How your concept embrace networks and 5G, which is the topic. How do you cooperate with other initiatives in Europe? You want to take it?
We have short. We have many projects. One of them, maybe you have not seen it, is Structura-X. Structura-X is one of the lighthouse projects that is dedicated to federated infrastructures. Inside Structura-X, we have the biggest telco providers and the biggest IXPs in Europe, together with the biggest CSPs, which are small, but we have a lot of them. So you can imagine the system, Telecom Italia, Deutsche Telekom, Aruba, Ionos, and then we have BigX, Topics, Dynamics, all the IX, so the Internet Exchange providers. And they are working exactly to develop the mechanisms to federate network, storage, and compute. Some of the mechanisms are very basic. I don't want to get into the technical stuff, but based on creating virtual clustering through Kubernetes, so creating liquid infrastructures. And that applies also to the network, but there is also different mechanisms to federate the networks and create, let me say, work groups through IXPs. In other words, yes, there's a lot going on in specific working groups that are addressing specifically the problem of networking, storage, and compute, which are the basis of the infrastructure.
About the data exchange to the network, it will take, first of all, it will take years. I mean, there is no secret here. The vision that I push and that we are pushing, that will be something close to the data roaming that we have with our mobile phones. I mean, I left France 2 days ago, went through Germany, Slovenia, Slovakia. I never had to sign an agreement with any of the telco, and still I have internet on my phone. And they know who I am, and I will be invoiced for that. How could we enable a system similar for data when we include all the regulation, all the topic that we've covered before about privacy, the consent, the authorization, and so on? It requires a new data exchange format. If we want that to not be centralized, it means that we need to make sure that it's tamper-proof. So also a lot of cryptographic primitives and hardware, software hardware attached to that. I mean, this is an entire new ecosystem that will have to be built around data exchange, like this notion of data roaming, and it will take some time. Very proud to be part of this initiative and to have the challenges on working on that.
Yeah, one last sentence to that one. There is this Ipsa-Itzis project from, have you heard about it? Ipsa-Itzis. Okay, so that project takes care about the Edge Cloud Continuum, and some projects in there, funded projects or co-funded projects, are also taking care about data roaming. And this is also a project that is very close to us, because on the pieces that we are responsible for, it's based on Gaia principles, but you cannot, one association cannot solve all the topics. So I think we are focusing on trust and interoperability more or less.
Emil, sorry, question, sorry.
So my name is, is working. My name is Roman Behul. So I will just come back from let's say the general applications and overall to some sectoral specifications. And my point of interest is now energy, because we spoke about automotive, etc. Energy is the sector when there is a huge exchange on data. At the time being when all the European countries, they have ambitions to connect all the decentralized resources coming from renewables, etc., to the working existing networks, energy networks, and that this is really based on exchange of data in order to control this, yes, properly. So if there are use cases or in mind you have in some project ideas, or there are real some projects, they are dealing with really energy sector first, and maybe especially with, let's say, this issue I just mentioned.
I will be very short. Yes, we have a big working group on energy as a vertical. We have one lighthouse project which is very important, which is Gaia-X. And inside this, and the consortium running this project is made by the largest energy providers, as you can imagine, that are members of the organization. You can go on the website, and we can provide you, Martina can provide you the link, but you can easily see the use cases that this is addressing, and there's a lot of the use cases that you are mentioning. You can imagine there's a lot of them, so balancing the grid, combination of renewable and fossil tracing, carbon footprint, all of them are there. So, yes.
Thank you. So now I will be happy to invite one more time Mr. Peter Švec, our State Secretary from Ministry of Economy, to say our final words. And after, exactly, Madame Rybanska, the invitation to Alicante will come.
Thank you. Yeah. Being 4 or 5 years journalist on beginning of my career, I visited many times different conferences, and I hated when the politicians came, or leaders or member of government made a speech and then left. I always had a question, so they came just to tell something and not getting reflex or the reflection. So I made the exception, and my colleagues allowed me to spend whole morning with you, and it was really useful for me. Many important things what I learned can be useful or could be useful for us, definitely for Slovakia, and it's up to us how we will deal with that. I mean, us as representatives of government, and you represent many representatives of business. When listening those presentations and debates, I was looking for some picture or some example how to underline importance of digitalization, and it came to my mind such example. Every one of us knows popcorn. Everyone eats popcorn. I hope you like, or majority of us likes popcorn when going to cinema or sitting in house watching football and so on and so on. And I was just thinking, you know, can you imagine that you will eat these grains before it is, you know, transformed on popcorn? It's not possible. You will you know, break your teeth, and it's not eatable. But for changing it on really fine popcorn, you need some conditions for that. You need a right vessel, you need oil, you need to set it on right degrees, on right hot level, I would say. And then it changed in one moment for fine popcorn, which is you know, which we like and which we enjoy. And this is generally the picture or example of importance of digitalizations, because this is the objective of digitalization, to create right conditions so that all, you know, players in industry, in economy, which have the physical products or service, and many datas which are there somewhere hidden but not shared. And when we create right condition in this field, in digitalizations, to make it accessible, to make it to share it each other, and trust is very important in this process. Then we can enjoy more the profit of our work, of our you know, activities in different fields, in different sectors, and so on and so on. So I don't know if this picture is right, but that was something what came to my mind, and what gives me you know, importance of digitalizations, how important it is for the economy. So and the second and the last point, as I said on the beginning, that I don't care the date of elections, because administration should work regardless of any elections. The same meaning I have for cooperation between ministries. I don't care who is who and who is where. The important thing is to cooperate together and to think on importance of this country, and competitiveness of this country and this economy, because we are on the same board or boat, and our aim should be together to fight for better place of Slovakia in world economy, in European economy and world economy. We have a potential, definitely we have a potential. We have interesting players in economy. There are beautiful ideas in different fields in economy. We just there is only lack of cooperation and sharing our ideas. So thank you very much, Francesco. Thank you, Roland and Pierre, and all other players and visitors or participants. Mr. Štefanec as a member of European Parliament, and I see my colleague, State Secretary of Ministry of Agriculture. I'm greeting you. So thank you very much for this time, and I hope it is only beginning of a process which can help us go further. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and I hope that we was successful to join 2 ministers, but I see State Secretary of Agriculture, so it will be 3 ministers and the representative Minister of Education, so it will be 4 ministers, hopefully, and our community, our business. So please, if I may ask for thank you very much for the participation, but the invitation of 2 minutes will come now.
In the spring 2020, we officially launched the Gaia-X European Cloud with my friend Peter Altmaier. A year and a half ago, France and Germany launched the first means to develop Europe's digital sovereignty. Immense progress has since been made. Most of our European partners have joined the program. Our ambition is now to accelerate.
We have the opportunity to drive something that is not out there, is needed, and we are the first doing it. If we want to be in control in Europe of our economy, of our life, of our society, of our public services, of our healthcare, we need to regain control on technology platforms.